Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We're happy to have you here with us today. We're going to be discussing the Afghanistan refugee crisis and going over some new updates and announcements from IFSA. I'll start with a quick introduction. My name is Lina Awad. I work with IFSA as a building routes manager. I'm the incoming building routes manager. And I'll turn things over to Rula for a quick introduction before we jump in.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Rula Mustafa, and I am the ongoing building route manager.
So I'm hoping to get us started with some quick conversation guidelines for today for everyone joining us. This is just a friendly reminder that we're all here working together with a mutual goal. Both IFSA and everyone joining in through the live, we're here to support people in crisis. Our hope from today's conversation is that we're able as an organization to acknowledge the limitations that we have and to be very upfront with them so that we can set realistic expectations moving forward. We don't have answers to all the questions that will be coming up, but we'll do our best to answer the ones that we do know. And inshallah, we hope that we'll be able to stay in touch with you so we can answer the rest as time goes. So just a little bit about the work that we do at IFSA for refugee support. We're learning a lot of lessons this time around from the work that we did around the Syrian refugee crisis. At the time in 2015, we were able to sponsor thousands of Syrian refugees, and the work for that leading up to it was done almost a year in advance. A lot of the work at the time was led by volunteers from both IFSA and the Mennonite Center. We worked with them tirelessly throughout the year leading up to refugees coming in to build systems to establish mutual points of contact, to understand how we can coordinate refugee support through volunteers, through settlement. And it felt almost like overnight that the work shifted from being very slow-paced to extremely fast-paced as the refugees began arriving. So we understand from that experience that the work we're doing is challenging, it's complex, and the processes for it are constantly changing. The upside to the work that we did with the Syrian refugees is that things took a drastic turn over the years. Since 2015, at the time, many of those Syrian refugees were accessing regular services through IFSA. They were accessing food hamper services and other supports through the organization, and that was a huge burden. Currently, as we're speaking today, less than 10% of the refugees that arrived at the time are still accessing our essential care services, and that's a testament to the work that was done over the years and to their ability to flourish in their respective communities. Right now, the majority are financially independent and able to work on their own.
As you all know, back in August, the situation in Afghanistan has become very complex. We don't know how people will get out of Afghanistan. Many Afghan called us and called the government and started feeling so panicking with the situation there, and they were asking for a safe haven for their families or even their loved ones there, even if they are not part of their direct families. But we all were in the same situation. We were all asking ourselves questions on how to help and help the people there in Afghanistan in different ways. But the situation at the time that the government of Canada announced that they will be bringing up to 20,000 Afghan nationals, and we didn't know exactly the details. But we also, as IFSA, we wanted to help and wanted to make sure that we understand what, the system that the government is developing in order to be very well equipped to support in helping Afghans, especially those who have connection to Edmonton. But the thing that the government is still developing the plan. There are a lot of criteria that we don't know yet about. There are different programs and initiatives that are being launched in different times. And there is a lot of changes and within this very unstable situation. And also, as IFSA got hundreds of emails and phone calls and inquiries, also across Canada had or have been having the same situation as well. There are Afghans who are texting and calling and emailing either from inside Afghanistan, outside of Afghanistan, or even those who live in Canada as well. We decided to come today together to give you some update on the sponsorship and on the details that we know so far. So for now, what we know that the government is still committed to bringing up to 20,000 Afghan nationals. Recently, there has been an announcement that this 20,000 might jump up to 40,000. For now, we know that the government is has two programs to support Afghan nationals. The first one is specifically designed for Afghan nationals who have helped the Canadian government through helping the Canadian government either through interpretation or through some support that was provided inside Afghanistan. The government is saying that they will bring 5,000 Afghan under this special immigration program, and that will be all sponsored through the government of Canada. The second program is the sponsorship program, where the government announced that 15,000 Afghan will be arriving under the refugee sponsorship program. We don't know exactly how many spots each staff in Canada will get, and this program is specifically targeting Afghans who live out of Afghanistan. It's not for people who live inside Afghanistan. They don't qualify as a refugee if they are still inside Afghanistan. And also of those refugees are outside Afghanistan, but they have a durable solution in a third country, then they also don't qualify for this program. We know that millions of people have got displaced inside Afghanistan, but unfortunately, under the international criteria of refugee, internally displaced people don't qualify for refugee sponsorship. And what we know for now that the government of Canada is giving priority for the refugees, for Afghan refugees who are outside of Canada and they don't have a durable solution. Their priority is for women leaders, human rights advocates, persecuted minorities. So for the sponsorship program, the program number 2 that the government is working out on, the program will resettle refugees under two main umbrella. The first one is the government-assisted refugees. So they will be coming to Canada as refugees, but sponsored by the government. And the second one is privately sponsored refugees. Usually private sponsors work with SA, and this is where us as IFSA can support. And the second stream is the group of 5 sponsorship. For the meantime, and we know how much actually the situation is difficult, the only thing that Afghan can do is just like to register for refugee status with the UNHCR, as this will be helping them hugely to come to Canada through, or even like through either sponsorship or a group of 5 sponsorship. Or to register for refugee status with government in country where they reside for now, outside of Afghanistan, where they call it the country of refuge. As maybe majority of you know that we have already launched a survey where we tried actually to capture the numbers of Afghans who live in Edmonton and they want to sponsor their loved ones, or even capture the community members who want to either sponsor or provide donation or provide voluntary service. The survey is still up. We are providing more information or update to this page next week. We'll be providing all the links, related links that the government has already put up on their website or across Canada have put up on their website. So if you visit this page next week, you will see more updates and more information.
Thank you, Huda. I did promise when we first began that we would be addressing some challenges and frustrations that we also have as an organization. As Rula mentioned earlier, the IRCC rules are very fast changing. So even for numbers, that's something that could change over time and could change very rapidly as we go. So we ask that you be patient with us as we try to navigate this process. There's a lot of confusion around the different programs that are currently advertised by the Government of Canada. So Rula mentioned Program 1 and Program 2. There's still some confusion around the numbers and how the two programs, what the qualifiers are for the two programs. So we are waiting for information on that in the same way that you are. Millions of people are obviously in need of immediate assistance, but our capabilities and our abilities in this realm are very limited. We're only able to help Afghans who have a known connection to Edmonton. Those who do not are unfortunately not be able to assisted by a SAW and would have to explore other avenues. We have a very confined quota that we get from the IRCC. We still have not heard back about that, but when we do, we just ask that you understand that our numbers are limited, and therefore the number of people that we're able to bring to Edmonton will be limited. And which is why we encourage the refugees abroad, your family members, to attempt to register the UNHCR to open up more avenues for them to be sponsored and to be able to come to Canada. As an organization, we also have a limited number of staff and volunteers, and we try to work repeatedly to recruit more volunteers, especially as situations like this come up, but we do have limited capacity. So we do as much as possible to respond to your messages and emails, but we are limited in the time that we have. There's a risk of not being able to provide the needed settlement services. So we have to make sure, as we mentioned from the lessons we learned from the Syrian crisis, that we are able to support the individuals that we bring to the country throughout their settlement process. I'm going to talk a little bit about ways that you can help as we navigate through the following few months. We hope that you can stay committed and interested. This is a very tedious process, and we understand that. The refugees need a lot of support, but their needs will peak well after the media attention has subsided. So we ask that you continue to be interested in this, that you continue to look into more information and find ways to volunteer your supports. Making a donation is always something that helps, whether it's donating to IFSA, which would be really wonderful because we have staff members and frontline supports that take hundreds of hours in order to get these refugees set up. We have a financial controller who also works with us to assist us in our refugee sponsorship process and in the applications. And we have over 300 hours of community and volunteer supports that are dedicated to these families once they do come in. Supporting other organizations like MCC Thrift that currently works with IFSA. You're able to help by donating household goods and items that you feel would be beneficial to families as they come in. IFSA is not currently equipped to store these items, so we ask that you direct your donations to MCC Thrift for anything of that type. And the last, and of course not least, is filling out the survey. We ask that you complete the survey on our website. For now, that's a way for us to continue to be in touch with you as we navigate this process. And it also helps us understand the needs of the community and the demand for sponsorship, as well as the interest in volunteering and assisting as the refugees come in. So we ask that you continue to fill out that survey as time goes on. And I'm just going to hand things over to you to see if anyone has questions. And as they come up, we'll try to answer as much as we can. Again, I do want to be realistic in how much we can respond to because we don't have the answers to everything, but please do submit any questions that you have. And you can ask your questions on the YouTube live chat.
I see that there is a question in the chat. I have a friend who made it to the USA in a detention setting of sorts waiting. Is there any info support on what is happening with those who are in USA? I heard maybe they will come to Canada. As I mentioned, there is a lot of change. There are a lot of uncertainty, even for us as SAH. We keep like asking questions as well. We also hear that there are a number of Afghans who were helped to flee from inside Afghanistan and went to the USA. We know that a number of them will be coming to Canada. As far as I know, and with the last update we got, 5,000 of them will be coming to Calgary hub. 180 of them might be arriving to Edmonton. In the update we got as a SAL, we learned that there is a delay for those 5,000 to come to Calgary, but we don't know what's the reason of the delay. We don't know exactly what are the criteria to choose people to come from the USA to Canada, or what's like the criteria for some of them to be resettled in Canada and others to be resettled to the USA. I'm sorry that I couldn't exactly answer the question, but that's the information we have so far. I see another question. What can I do about my family members who are in Afghanistan? The situation there is very bad and they are not safe. Unfortunately, we totally understand and our hearts goes out to them. We are also very concerned about the safety of each Afghan citizen. We just feel like the pain that they are going through, but sadly, there is nothing you can do or we can do. We can't either you can't help until like they leave maybe Afghanistan and they become maybe eligible to be sponsored as a refugee. You might find some information or some other background that apply. Not refugee sponsorship if they are still inside Afghanistan. Maybe there are other like family sponsorship or other type of sponsorship. But our knowledge and experience confined to refugee sponsorship only. I don't know if there is any sources that you can reach to ask about different type of immigration to Canada, or even, but if they are out of Afghanistan, you can explore the refugee sponsorship solutions.
I do want to reiterate, though, that exiting Afghanistan in and of itself is not the only qualifier to be able to come through a sponsorship agreement holder to Canada. The numbers are really limited. So it is a judgment call, and a very unfortunate one at that. But an individual or a family exiting Afghanistan does not necessarily guarantee that they would be able to migrate elsewhere once they're registered with the UNHCR.
Yeah.
There's another question on what's considered a durable solution.
Okay. So a durable solution is where the refugee is well settled in a third country. They have the right to education. They have the right to work. They are able like to live a dignified life. It doesn't durable solution. It doesn't always mean that they are able to get the citizenship. It just like means that they are safe. They are able to work. They are able to get education, and they are like self-sufficient. So it just sometimes it's very specific criteria that the visa offices apply. For us, sometimes while working with refugees from different parts of the world, we don't like exactly judge if they are within that category under like the durable solution country. We only, for us, fill out the application and send it to visa offices, and then there they do the due diligence to understand the refugee situation and understand exactly where they stand and how their life is. And the visa offices usually is the one that's supposed to say if they are in a durable solution or if they qualify for refugee sponsorship.
For the question around the sponsorships being for displaced Afghans, I'm assuming you're asking if the sponsorships we're referring to are only for displaced Afghans. The answer is yes. So for the work that we do as a sponsorship agreement holder, it's only for displaced Afghans who are outside of Afghanistan. And the other main qualifier is that they're able to be sponsored by their family members in Edmonton. So they need to have a family connection in Edmonton of an individual or a family who are able to sponsor them. For other sponsorship avenues, we don't have all the answers, especially for Program 1. That program is run by the government, and it's for them to exit individuals who have worked with the government of Canada in various capacities in Afghanistan.
Yeah, the only information we got for the program number 1, that it's only designed specifically for Afghan nationals and their families who assisted the government of Canada, and extended family members of previously resettled interpreters who assisted the government of Canada. And that Afghans do not need to currently be in Afghanistan or return to Afghanistan to be eligible or to have their application processed when they are once they are able to apply. So this is the only information we got regarding program number 1. And I think if you go to the government of Canada, they also have this criteria stated there. They also have a link where they ask you to input the information. And then they would assess if you qualify or your family member qualify for that type of program or not. So our information is very limited, unfortunately, but you can see the Government of Canada website to get maybe further information or a specific response to your question. The question regarding, are you aware that Tajikistan and Pakistan are not issuing RST documents? Also, again, the certain countries keep changing their refugee sponsorship rules. We don't know, like, even if they are issuing them a refugee status or not. We know that once a government is so overwhelmed with the number of refugees, then they stop issuing any refugee sponsorship document. We know this from like our experience with the Syrian refugees as well, or the Syrian crisis back in 2015. Majority of the countries where the Syrians sought refuge, they issued that document for the first few months and then they stopped. So I'm not fully aware of what's happening in Tajikistan and Pakistan now, but I would assume maybe in a few months, maybe they would stop if they are actually issuing this this document or not. But just to give you just like a heads up that if you are seeking a SA, specifically a SA sponsorship, SA does not require a proof of refugee, neither from UNHCR nor from the government of the country of refuge. So SA are exempted from this document. We can sponsor refugees who prove to us that they are outside Afghanistan, then they qualify to be sponsored through SA. For the group of 5, they can't sponsor refugee unless they have a proof of an official proof of refugee status, either from the UNHCR or from the country of refuge.
And for the last question that we have here is someone with relatives in Kabul who worked as a security guard at the Canadian Embassy, and he sent his request to the email Afghan situation. He has not received a reply yet. Any idea what should he do? I'm not entirely sure if you mean an IFSA email that it was sent to, or if it was submitted through the government questionnaire. For us, we're not currently responding to everyone. We're trying our very best to just capture the interest from the community so that we're able to respond to it when the time does come and when we have a better sense of what our numbers are. If it was submitted through the government website, that's not something really that we can speak to. We do encourage you to follow up on the government website repeatedly because information on it changes very frequently. They do have, as Rula mentioned, a survey there right now for you to input your information and see if you're eligible for Program 1. And they do also have some programs available to speed track Afghan applications, but that's not something that we're able to speak to anymore than what's on the website.
I'm not sure also if you are saying that you sent a request to the Canadian website, the Canadian government website. I know there is also a phone number. Probably if you can help your relative through calling that number and asking them the specific question and ask them how he can apply to come through program number 1. The question or the other question is, does IFSA help as SAH if someone lives in Calgary? Unfortunately, no. So SAHs are either national or regional or local. For us as IFSA, we are just local and we only can help people who have connection to Edmonton. If you live in Calgary, you can look into the SAH list on the government website. There you will find the SAHs in Calgary, and then they can help you. Of course, there are certain criteria again for each SAH, and there is also, as we said, a limited quota that we get every year from RCC. So you can ask them, you can inquire and see if they are open, if they have space to sponsor your loved ones. But for us, we are only able to help people who have connection to Edmonton.
It looks like there's a follow-up on the RSD question for group of 5 that is required and it's currently not being issued in Tajikistan. We do suggest that you continue to track the government website and see if there are any updates on requirements. As Rula mentioned, it's not a requirement for a sponsorship agreement holder for the refugee to be registered with the UNHCR or with the government of the country that they're in. But like you said, that is a requirement currently for group of 5. I would say to just continue tracking that and continue tracking the situation in the country that they're in and seeing if there are opportunities to be registered with either.
Okay. The following question is, do you know if Ismailis are considered a persecuted minority? As you saw on the website of the Canadian government, they didn't give much information about what it's meant to be, like perceived minority. It's just like that stated in their website, so we don't know exactly what's the details and how would they assess the person if he or she are part of the persecuted minority.
That would be a judgment call that's made by the visa office further down the process than IFSA has any connection to. I do just want to mention that we have about 5 minutes left, so if anyone has questions, please submit them.
Yeah, I would just maybe mention that based on our experience also from the Syrian influx, minority or persecuted minority had different meaning from one regional area to another, because some minorities, they were completely safe. They were living in a geographical area where there is no fight, no conflict. So it was almost like safe for them. Other minorities, they were part of the conflict, and it wasn't safe for them to live in the area where they live. So as Lena mentioned, it's a judgment call by the visa offices. Any further question?
We have one more question here. It says, I want to help sponsor someone, but I don't have any connection to Afghanistan. Can I still help? You absolutely can. If you're based in the Edmonton area, you're able to help someone come to Edmonton. There are multiple means to that. Through a sponsorship agreement holder is one, and working through a group of 5 is another. It's helpful to read some information on the IFSA website to get a better sense of how a sponsorship agreement holder works. And for group of 5, I would suggest looking into the RSTP. They have some training information and some details on how that process works. There are many families that would need the help that don't have family members here, or ones that have family members who don't have the means to support them. So please do reach out to us if that's the case.
If there is no more question, probably we can close the session unless there is any further question. But again, you can go to our website, to the survey that we are updating next week. More information will be there, more links will be there. And again, we just like want to say that our hearts goes out to all those refugees around the world. There have been millions and millions of them now, especially for the Afghan refugees and Afghans inside Afghanistan. We know how difficult the situation is, and we pray for safety and security. And inshallah, once we know more information and we have clarity on our role, definitely we'll update our website and we'll be reaching out to those probably who contact us for questions or even emailed us from inside Edmonton, or those who filled out the survey, just to update them on the information we got. Inshallah, we'll be waiting for RCC to update us on what's like our role for the next phase.
And we do ask that you please continue to complete that survey. If you're looking at volunteering, if you're looking at sponsoring, but you don't have a family to sponsor, or if you have family members that you want to sponsor, there are different ways to help. And we ask that all different avenues, please complete the survey so that we have a better sense of the community interest. Thank you so much for joining us today. It looks like we don't have any more questions. We appreciate you coming in, and inshallah look forward to connecting with you again soon.